Okay, the Desert of Doubt. Despite being a desert, and so you'd expect it to be really bland, this is actually a really fun level. Like, the Desert of Mystery in Link to the Past was extremely boring and empty, but here there's actual level design. You actually do stuff. For the sake of variety, they even have not one, but 2 desert villages. There's really not much here though, because the huts just have people talking in them in this village. They don't really... There's no shop, although, to be fair, there aren't any shops ever in this game. Like, because you have infinite bombs and arrows, so they can't sell you that. And the force fairies serve as your potions, so there's no point in selling those. And you can, like, why sell your hearts when you can just get them from jars? And it's really annoying how they recycle the same sprite for every single Gerudo. I mean, it's bad enough that they all don't have the right complexion, because in Ocarina of Time, the Gerudo women actually looked like Arabic people who came from the desert, because like they had like they weren't pale is what I'm saying, and it's never explained that this is a separate subspecies or separate race of Gerudo women. It's implied to be the same one that Ganon comes from, because they already say that Ganon came from this tribe, but he became a criminal and they're ashamed of him. And this kid, this boy, replaced him. Because, as they explain, in the Gerudo tribe, one boy is born once every 100 years. And the last time that happened, the Elder happened. So, and he seems like a perfectly reasonable boy, though obviously way too young to be a leader, but whatever. But before him, there was Ganondorf, and they oppose him instead of being happy with him like in Ocarina of Time for some reason. That tombstone says that the road forward will only open to those who oppose the winds. But the dialogue from one of the NPCs confused me, because didn't one of them say that if you oppose the sandstorm winds, you'll get sent back to where you came from? But instead, the gimmick is that if you go in any way that doesn't oppose the sandstorm winds directly, then you're going to get warped back to the entrance of the desert. And believe me, you don't want that to happen, because that would be extremely annoying, especially if you do that really like late into the level. But it's really easy. I mean, sometimes it's kind of hard to figure out where exactly the wind is blowing. There aren't exactly any flags on the screen to show you or anything. This is really tedious level design. It's pure trial and error, and it's not like this reminds me of some level design in Minish Cap, and even then, the different pathways still had chests, so there was some sort of incentive to make you feel better about choosing the wrong path. Although there, you're basically forced to try to go to every path to see if you missed a chest, so it's just how you're supposed to know which block you're allowed to push forwards. I love how in this game you can do the spin attack just by rotating the analog stick in a full circle and pressing B. That is so convenient. It causes the spin attack to be an attack I actually use. And that's not something that's usually something I can say about top-down Zelda games. So of course they removed that feature in Link Between Worlds, even though you have the circle pad. And the spin attack is great for getting rid of those mummy enemies, so that they can turn into Stalfos and then warp to the Dark World for some reason. And then you have to destroy them in the Dark World, at which point the way forwards is cleared up in the Light World for some reason. It's a gimmick that kind of comes out of nowhere, considering everything that came before it. In the Dark World, you never get to make a screen transition. It's really weird. They always have some sort of walls or obstruction of some kind. which is weird. Like, do they think that... I mean, the GBA can obviously handle screen transition, and you do that in the caves and buildings all the time. And again, in the world called the Dark World, in like the level 5, I think it was, it would have been really interesting to spend the majority of it in the Dark World, and you could just make screen transitions all the time, and then occasionally go into the Light World. That would have been really interesting and properly take advantage of the name of the actual world. But instead they don't do that, and they just have those really limited Dark World outdoor areas. Which is really weird, because in every other game that features a Dark World, you aren't so limited in exploring the overworld in it. Yeah, the gimmick of this place is that you have to get Pegasus boots that let you hover, so that you can hover over the quicksand. So that's a pretty creative way of taking advantage of quicksand. It's not just an obstacle for you to get around, you have to outright go across it. And again, these blocks are tedious because you have no idea where you're supposed to push them. I guess it's only in the Eastern Palace that I guess the Stalfos and GBA areas do occasionally jump away from you, but not nearly as much, which is good. Why can't that always be the case? And I like the music of this level too. It's the music of the Dark World from Link to the Past. And I don't know if it's the same music that plays in Infiltration Hollow Castle, but it's great. Very nostalgic. The reason I fell there was because I had no idea that it was the type of switch that when I left it, it would stop having its effect. And good. They don't have a weird physics thing where you're not allowed to use the Pegasus boost to hover from ledges, but you can hover over bottomless pits and these things. No, instead I was able to do that to actually get some money. It took a while of falling into the pit and respawning at the waterfall for me to get over there, and then I realized, oh, I can actually go over here and get the chest and those force gems. I didn't know that because the camera didn't pan enough to the right to show me that there was a ladder that I could just climb up. Unfortunately, sinking in the quicksand and being able to progress that way was intuitive to me because I had already played Mario 2, where you did that all the time in the desert level. And here, they actually introduced a brand new tribe of people for the Zelda series. The Zuni, which are pickle people. Doesn't that kind of rip off the Bean people in Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga, though? And here I'm showing off something that I discovered when I tried to replay the gambling minigame of the Village of the Blue Maiden. Like, infinitely, until I would run out of money, just for fun. But the problem is that, for some stupid reason, you're limited in the amount of times that you're allowed to gamble. And then he arbitrarily says you're about to close for the day. And I could understand if he only said this when you made enough of a profit. But I just broke even over and over again. So it's not like I bankrupted him. Like that's what happened in the Village of the Blue Maiden for me. So that I understood, but like this time that didn't happen. They could at least give you a good excuse, but they don't. I understand that gambling would be an incredibly broken way to get straight to 2,000 force gems, but one, there are barely any levels where you're allowed to gamble to begin with, because there's barely any gambling areas ever in this game, and like, so they might as well let you have that trick. And two, it's gambling. I have the worst of luck with gambling in video games. So imagine how bad it would be in real life. So I'd say that's an acceptable risk. Like, you'd probably not be able to take advantage of it that well. Or at the very least, it would take forever. But no, they have to limit it and not even tell you why. Like, the Village of the Blue Maiden, the gambling kid just says, "Oh, I'm tired." So you have to leave and come back tomorrow, which you're not actually able to do because there's no day-night cycle in this game. Which would have been actually really cool for a top-down Zelda game. I mean, like, top-down games have been doing day-night cycles since, like, Pokemon Yellow. And, like Pokemon Crystal. Like, I was confusing Yellow with Gold for some reason. The annoying thing about this is that you have to trigger the pit in order for you to be able to go over it. Like, you're pretty much forced to trigger all those pits because, like, it takes experience to realize, oh, the sand looks a certain way, a little too yellow and square. Maybe I should be suspicious of this particular pit. I mean, the area below the pits marks out where the pits are above it, but you're not going to memorize that. And I showed off that drowning, in fact, doesn't give you a game over or make you lose force berries, but instead just respawns you from the last place that you entered the water. So that was oddly forgiving. That allowed me to get that giant force gem no problem. Honestly, the holes that send you to lower areas gets old because it's so overused. What's really annoying about these cacti is that they really don't look spiky at all. So every single time that I get damage from them, from contact damage, I'm always surprised and annoyed. At least in Link to the Past, the cacti looked a lot more obviously a threat. So I knew that they were a threat and to avoid them. I mean, like, no, duh, cacti are dangerous, but these cacti look so fuzzy and harmless. It was interesting that I stunned that enemy, that lever, because I Pegasus booted the wall and that summoned it. And it's cool getting to take advantage of the hover Pegasus boots in a 2D section to, like, hover across to ladders and stuff. Like, that's cool. They're really taking advantage of the hover boots in every way that they possibly can. Like normally, like you might expect that you can only just go over bottomless pits with it. The Zuni, I want to call him Zunari because that sounds like the name of a character in Wind Waker. But the Zuni there tells you that you have to walk very carefully, like just little steps at a time, very tediously, to get across this trapdoor. And if you look closely, you can clearly see the square-shaped sand that the trapdoor is, because it's clearly separate from the sand to the right of it. But you're still not going to really register that until after you've already fallen in it, because you're so focused on just playing the game. And I swear the hitboxes for the cacti are larger than they should be. And speaking of that, so is the hole. It's large. It's larger than it should be, and it sucks you in. In multiplayer mode, well, obviously, you have to have every player have Pegasus boots so they can go across the holes and stuff. That's really the only change, though, and it's not really a change, just a challenge as a result of the level design being applied to multiplayer. So, for Shadow Battle, the Tower of the Winds arena, it has you running through lots of doors avoiding bombs. Picking up the people in the light world from the dark world is a good strategy, especially when the big bomb shows up. Pressing the switches at the bottom of the screen will cause bombs to fall in Dark World. You can access the Dark World by going through any doorway. When you start, when you start, a ball in the middle of the screen can actually show up, and it can give you something. It'll actually respawn in a few moments, which is convenient. If you hit the 4 crystal switches in the Dark World within a couple of seconds, you'll summon the big bomb. You might need an ally to get it done though. In the dark version of the stage, there are 2 more switches, one on each side of the ladders in Dark World. If you hit them, they make bombs rain down in the Light World. And for the Shadow Battle Arena of Hyrule Castle, it's just a boring, empty-looking square surrounded by a wall. The place is a courtyard with soldiers and unsteady portals. You can only get items in the Dark World. They appear on either side of the portal and are often of the level 2 variety. You can even get a level 2 sword, which you can never really do like otherwise. The enemies always respawn on the light gray patches of grass near the screen's edges. If you don't leave the Dark World within 10 seconds, you'll be returned to the Light World automatically. The Dark version of the stage has 2 more switches in the Dark World, which release bomb shoes in Light World when hit. I managed to figure out where exactly the cracked walls were just by looking at the indents in the walls. Like when the walls tend to curve inwards, like to go north more, then you can tell that you can bomb them. But I don't know why I can't just have a crack. Like, there's no reason to not just have a regular crack. And don't you remember when you were able to, like, Pegasus boots the cracked walls and that broke them? I don't think you can even do that in this game. Or if you can't, it's very rare because I don't remember being able to do that. It's so annoying that when you try to attack him with just the sword, he blocks it with his sword and you don't even really see him block it. Like, it looks like he's just somehow invincible to the sword. But yeah, like, this was a tedious part of the level because it drags out far too long. Practically every room that's a bombable wall, practically every room is the same. So it just kind of takes forever. Like, you'd think that if you bomb all the walls, you can get chests or something, but you can't. And for the Shadow Battle Arena of Above the Clouds, a big square cloud arena surrounded by a pit. Items appear at the corners. Mystery items will show up in the middle of the screen just south of the hole. The square border in the cloud center changes colors every few seconds. You can throw links off the cloud into the pit. As you fall down the hole at the center of the map, you'll find a cannon and a switch. When you hit the switch, the fiery contraption on the surface will spin in the opposite direction. When you get launched by the cannon, you can use a downward thrust on the players. In the dark version, the rotating fire bars have 4 arms instead of 2. So basically, the dark versions of the stages are a little bit more dangerous. Yeah, like, this is the same boss that we already fought. That's kind of one of the weaker parts of the game. They rush the bosses at a certain point. And I'm kind of embarrassed that I died so many times to this level. It's not really like it's that hard. I wonder if every level has the same amount of heart containers in it. Because if so, that would mean that I missed out on some heart containers. Like from not getting every single chest I could possibly find. Not like it really matters. I really wish you could skip every cutscene in the game. Like, I was forced to watch this to show it off, but still. Like, especially in multiplayer mode, I don't think anyone would actually want to see the cutscenes. I mean, maybe the first time, but I doubt every other time. You even have to watch the cutscene again when you replay the level for fun. Like, when you replay the Village of the Blue Maiden, it actually works out kind of differently because the owl doesn't automatically go up to you when you first start out the stage and talk to you, like, automatically. You have to tell him to talk to you, and then you can get the Moon Pearl from talking to the old man again.